The first scream didn't come from a person, it came from the sky. A violent crack of thunder slammed against the city like a warning nobody understood, shaking windows, splitting silence, and freezing every pedestrian mid-step. Streetlights flickered like panicked eyes, blinking fast, blinking slow, then shutting down completely until the entire block drowned in darkness. And right there, in that sudden blackout, two silhouettes flashed into existence, Yulong and Yang Mei Mei, running through the storm as if something monstrous, invisible, and merciless chased them at the speed of breath. Their shadows stretched unnaturally across the wet pavement, tangled, trembling, almost alive. And though no one saw their faces clearly, the way they clutched each other's hands sent a shiver through the night, a silent signal that something catastrophic was unfolding. Something big. Something forbidden. Something irreversible. Cars screeched. Doors slammed. Dogs barked as though warning the world about a danger it couldn't name. Lightning carved a sharp line across the clouds, lighting up the pair for half a heartbeat, just long enough to reveal the terror in their eyes and the desperation in their stride. Yulong pulled Mei Mei closer, shielding her from the storm like he already knew what was coming. She held on to him with the kind of fear that only appears when time is running out. And in that electrified flash, right as the thunder swallowed their outlines, the two vanished as though the night itself opened a door and swallowed them whole. People would swear they hallucinated. But the storm knew better. Something had been set in motion. Something bound by a vow that should have never existed. The hours earlier were deceptively calm. Yulong had waited alone for the studio to empty, his hands shaking slightly, not from fear but from the weight of something he'd carried far too long. The old rehearsal room at the end of the corridor seemed to pull him in, its dim light flickering like a heartbeat caught between life and uncertainty. When Yang Mei Mei finally stepped inside, she brought warmth into the cold space, but also the tremor of questions she'd been holding behind her gentle smile. "You didn't ask me to come here for nothing," she said, voice soft but strong. "No," he replied. "Not tonight." There was a moment when the room seemed suspended. The table between them, the mirror behind them, the air around them, all frozen in anticipation. Yulong reached into his coat and pulled out a folded, time-worn slip of paper. Its edges were frayed, its surface creased from years of being opened, read, closed, and hidden. "This is my vow," he said quietly, laying the paper down between them. "I wrote it the night we filmed our first scene together." Mei Mei stared, her breath catching. "Why show me this now?" "Because someone found out," he whispered. "And because tonight, it all comes undone." Footsteps echoed suddenly from the hallway, heavy, deliberate, closing in with the slow certainty of danger. Yulong instinctively stepped closer to her, a shield without hesitation. The mirror trembled behind them, reflecting two bodies united by something the world was never meant to see. "Did you tell anyone we'd be here?" he murmured. "No," she whispered. "Did you?" Yulong's silence was its own answer. The footsteps stopped directly outside the door. A shadow hovered behind the frosted glass like a threat waiting for permission to break in. "Yulong, Yang Mei Mei. We need to talk." Without thinking, Yulong grabbed Mei Mei's hand. "We're leaving," he said. She nodded without fear, without doubt. Together. They slipped through the back door, their feet pounding the hallway floor as the lights flickered with frantic urgency. Every shadow looked like a warning. Every corner felt like a trap. The storm outside roared louder, as if urging them to run faster, further, away from the truth clawing at their heels. "Someone's watching us," Yulong finally confessed as he pulled her into the narrow stairwell. "Watching what?" "Everything. Our late practices. Our after-hours conversations. The scenes we rehearsed in secret. There's a file. A full dossier on us." Mei Mei's breath trembled. "Why?" "I don't know. But whatever they want, it isn't good." The door at the bottom of the stairwell burst open. They didn't wait. They ran again. The city greeted them with chaos. Thunder crashing, rain slicing the air, wind screaming warnings they couldn't decipher. Their escape blurred into shadows and stormlight, two figures fighting against forces larger than themselves. Yulong pulled the vow from his pocket and shoved it into Mei Mei's hand. If something happens, don't let this disappear. Yulong. I mean it. Lightning carved another bright scar across the sky. And then, just like that, they were gone. No cameras caught them. No witnesses could explain the disappearance. Only the vow remained, whispered in fragments across the industry. I promise to protect what we share, even if the world never sees it. Weeks passed. Rumors multiplied. Conspiracies blossomed. But Yulong and Yang Mei Mei remained nothing more than shadows lost in a storm the world couldn't rewind. Some say they ran away together. Some say they were taken. Some say the vow held a truth too dangerous to survive. But the storm that night, the sky that screamed, the lights that died, the silence that followed, hinted at something deeper, something darker, something beautifully tragic. They vanished. But the vow didn't. It echoes still, soft as a secret, sharp as a promise. They didn't disappear by accident. They disappeared because of what they knew. The storm swallowed their footprints within seconds, erasing every trace of the direction they ran. The rain hammered the pavement hard enough to blur reality, turning streets into silver rivers and shadows into shifting ghosts. Somewhere beyond the flashing lightning and the trembling street lamps, Yulong and Mei Mei pressed themselves into the narrow gap between two abandoned buildings, breathing hard, hearts pounding in perfect, painful unison. Yulong held her face gently, his thumbs trembling. "Listen to me," he said, barely audible beneath the storm. "If we split up, we stand a chance." Mei Mei shook her head instantly, rain dripping down her cheeks like tears shaped by the sky. "I'm not leaving you. Not now. Not for them." Her voice cracked but did not break. It carried a truth that the night itself seemed to lean closer to hear. Yulong closed his eyes for a moment, the pain in his expression deeper than the darkness around them. "Mei Mei, you don't understand. They're not just watching us. They're hunting what we know." "What do we know?" Yulong swallowed hard. "That the file isn't just about us. It's about what they've been doing behind every production, every contract, every promise they made to the cast. They've been hiding things, dangerous things. We weren't supposed to find the audio logs, the surveillance summaries, the transcripts. But we did. And now..." He stopped. His words tightened in his throat. "And now," Mei Mei finished softly, "we're the only loose ends they can't risk leaving behind." Yulong nodded, the truth between them heavy enough to break the night. The thunder cracked again, closer, sharper, almost like a warning shot from the sky. Mei Mei took the vow from her pocket, her fingers curling around the worn paper. "This isn't just your promise anymore," she whispered. "It's ours." Their eyes locked. In the dim flash of lightning, their bond glowed, fragile, fierce, impossible to erase. Suddenly, a metallic clang echoed nearby. A trash bin toppled. A silhouette moved. Yulong grabbed Mei Mei's wrist and pulled her deeper between the buildings just as a flashlight beam slashed across the alley. A voice followed, cold, methodical, indifferent to the storm. "They can't have gone far. Spread out. Check every corner." Yulong pressed a finger to his lips, guiding Mei Mei further back until they were pressed behind an old generator humming faintly in the dark. The rain made the metal slick, the air cold, but neither dared to move, barely dared to breathe. The flashlight passed dangerously close. So close the beam skimmed the tip of Mei Mei's shoe. She squeezed Yulong's hand. His thumb stroked hers once, slow, grounding, a quiet reminder that he was still there, still fighting. After a few agonizing seconds, the footsteps faded. Yulong leaned close to her ear. "We have one chance. Just one. Tell me. There's someone who can help us, someone who knows more than we do. But reaching him means crossing the old bridge outside the city. If we make it there, we might survive this." Lightning flashed again, illuminating her face. Determination, fear, hope, all blended with the kind of courage that only comes when running backward isn't an option. "Then we go," she whispered. They slipped out of the alley and into the night, sticking close to the walls, moving through shadows like they had become shadows themselves. The city glowed faintly under the storm, the distant skyscrapers shimmering like tall, silent witnesses to their escape. As they neared an underpass, Yulong slowed. "Stop," he breathed. Mei Mei froze. A black SUV sat parked near the bridge's entrance, its headlights off, engine silent, but its presence too deliberate to overlook. A figure leaned against the railing, smoking under the rain, shielded by the arching concrete. They couldn't cross. Not there. Not now. Yulong scanned the area. His gaze landed on something unexpected: the entrance to an old subway tunnel, sealed years ago after a structural collapse. The barrier was broken open just enough for a person to slip through. "Underground," he whispered. Mei Mei hesitated. "Is it safe?" "No," he admitted. "But neither is staying here." They squeezed into the tunnel, their hands brushing against the rough concrete as they descended into darkness. The storm muffled above them, turning into a distant rumble. Below, the world smelled of iron, dust, and old memories buried under years of abandonment. A faint flicker of emergency light glowed down the track, barely strong enough to illuminate the path, but enough to guide them forward. Mei Mei hugged her arms, shivering. "Yulong, when you wrote that vow, what did you really mean?" He walked beside her slowly, their footsteps echoing like whispers in the empty tunnel. "I meant that no matter what the world did to us, no matter what they tried to take, I would protect what we built, the truth we shared, the parts of us that didn't need cameras or scripts or scenes to feel real." Mei Mei's breath hitched. "That sounds dangerously close to love, Yulong." He stopped walking. The emergency light flickered once, painting his face in soft, trembling color. "Mei Mei," he said, voice rough, honest, cracking at the edges. "It was love. Still is. And it's the only thing I'm not afraid of." Her heart raced in her chest. She stepped closer. The silence between them pulsed again. Alive, electric. "But love gives them power," she whispered. "And power gives them reason to destroy us." Yulong took her hand. "No. Love gives us reason to keep running." They continued forward, but eventually the emergency lights failed. The darkness thickened. Ahead, faint voices echoed. Yulong pulled Mei Mei behind an old support beam just as two figures appeared holding bright flashlights. "They know," one voice said. "They're heading for the bridge. They haven't made it there yet. But they will." "We split up," the other replied. "One takes the east track. The other stays close to the tunnel exit. They're not getting out." Yulong felt Mei Mei's fingers trembling inside his own. Her breath hitched again, but this time in fear. He leaned close, whispering so softly she barely felt the words. "When I tell you to run, run. Don't look back. Don't slow down." Her eyes widened with panic. "No. I'm not leaving you." "You have to," he said. "If one of us escapes, the vow survives. That's what matters." She shook her head fiercely. "I won't do it. Not now. Not ever." But the footsteps were getting closer. Closer. Too close. Suddenly, Yulong kissed her forehead and pushed her toward the opposite side of the tunnel. "Run. Yulong. Run, Mei Mei." The flashlight beams swung sharply toward their hiding place. Mei Mei ran. Her feet pounded the tracks as Yulong stepped out, drawing attention, pulling the danger toward himself. The flashlights collided with his silhouette, the beams slicing the darkness like blades. "There!" one man shouted. Yulong sprinted in the opposite direction, his footsteps echoing louder and louder until they were swallowed by the tunnel's roar. Mei Mei's lungs burned. Her legs trembled. But she ran, clutching the vow in her hand as though it were the only thread tying her to him. She burst through a collapsed portion of the tunnel, emerging into an abandoned service passage that led to the far edge of the city.